Let's cut right to the chase. Creative people are pretty nuts, and I know this because I'm one of them. If you're like me, you wonder, how do people get over the issues we face? That's what this show is all about. Think of each episode as a warm bath for the soul. We're all in this together, so let's do something good with the time we have left. This show is my love letter to the human condition. This, my friends, is Sentimental Illness.
Right on, right on. You know, it's so funny that every time I do this show, I'm reminded every time I listen to that intro that I have to fix it. Because if nobody's noticed it yet, when I say sentimental illness, my voice cracks and I go, sentimental illness. Sound like an idiot. All right, so pro. Boy, welcome guys, welcome. It's Friday. As my friend Kin from 12 Foot Ninja says, it's Friday. Oh, okay, so here's the deal. I'm a little nervous this morning for a different reason. Yeah, I got a killer band. Can't wait to introduce you guys. Very, very excited about this. It's been a very busy week, and to end on such a high point is a really big deal to me, so I'm grateful for that. But I want to tell you guys something. Many of you know me for a very long time. I've been doing this show for roughly 8.5 years. And it's more of a passion project. It's never been something that's taken off in the sense of it being a living. You know, I'm not like Dax Shepard. I don't have 5 million listeners, etc. I have a nice, healthy sum. But that being said, I still need a job. So over the last 20 years, I left the music business in 2003, retired from that in November of 2003, bought a house, lived my normal life, moved overseas, had some cool experiences. It's been great. But financial challenges up and down, you know, life kind of sucks. And as you get older, if you're not in a position of some sort of financial authority, it can get a little stressful. And I'm in my late 50s. And I thought, you know, if I'm here, if I'm sort of at the, I don't want to call it the bottom, but if I'm in a tough spot in my life, I really want to do what I want to do. And I'm going to figure this out. And so for the last 8 years, I've been trying to work on that and failing miserably in front of all of you. But that said, today I got my first hire for an audiobook. I'm very excited about that. It's a big deal, actually, because it's a huge book. And it comes from a company on the East Coast that literally found me online and said, wow, we love this guy's voice. We want him to do this giant book for this really important client. It's NDA. I can't talk about it, but I can talk about the fact that I got hired this morning. So I'm very excited about that because it's a very healthy sum. It's a very healthy job, and I get to show off. So here's to that. So I'm pretty excited about that, which is also why I'm a little nervous because I realize, oh man, be careful what you wish for, because now I'm in a huge challenge in front of me. Pick your poison. It's the way it is. All right. Enough of my yakking. We're going to boogie now. Float Omen. I'm going to drink some water because, yeah, I'm kind of nervous, actually. These guys. You guys know I love music. You guys know I love all music. I love everything from the Carpenters to Emperor. I like soft rock. I love scary metal. I love it all. And in the middle, maybe not the middle, maybe more towards the 80%. There are bands that are in the metalcore genre. And I don't want to just label them as a metalcore band because I think that's very, very unfair. New grunge, whatever you want to call it. So many people have told me what they think of this band, what they think of this sound. And I think they're all right, and I think they're all wrong. I think it is what it is. It's a collective of incredible musicians, two of which are here with me today. This band from New Jersey. Nothing to mock, man. Nothing to mock. Amazing stuff. I heard them a few months back, and I discovered them quite literally. They were recommended to me on my YouTube feed. It was just one of those things, and I fell in love with their single. And in fact, I had it stuck in my head all night last night again, so damn you. But I never looked back, and it's incredible. Earworm Central, man. These guys are gonna be a something. I guarantee it. But But today I'm fortunate enough to have them. I'm not going to yak anymore because that would be foolish. And I also know that Vinny has very little time. So let's get going. All right. Welcome to the stage, my friends. Big Metalcore, welcome to the two voices that are going to make this huge, this band. Vinny and Trent from Float Omen. Welcome, guys. How are you today?
Hello, we're good.
Hello. What an intro, by the way.
Hey, good. Well, let's get to it.
And now it's time for self-diagnosis.
All right, guys.
The transition music.
Yeah, you feel like you're in a doctor's office now, right?
A cool doctor's office.
Hey, that's right. That's right. Hi, Vinny's daughter. Well, we'll get going here. We'll let him talk to his daughter for a second. But here's what I'd like to ask. I'll start with you, Trent. How did, this is an obvious question, but what I don't know are the basic cores of the band. Like, what drew you guys to each other? Did you grow up together? Are you from rival bands that found solace with each other? What brought Float Omen together?
So, Vinny would probably definitely be a lot better at answering this one, but basically, I'll just answer it anyway. Vinny and Dom, Willie and Nick had been in a previous band called Idle Minds, and Vinny was also in a band with Dom. I think Willie was in that too for a brief period, Premonition. So they had always been like a collective unit. And when I moved to the area back in 2014, I had just started going to local shows. So like I knew who Idle Minds was, and I loved like melodic hardcore, like Counterparts and stuff. So I loved that band and wanted to write music and do stuff with them for the longest time. So fast forward, Carlos was in this band Viridian with Dom. That didn't work out. I was trying to join, and Float Omen was essentially just a for fun project with Nick, Vinny, and Dom. And then Willie had joined, and then shortly after that, it was around like 2021, and me and Carlos had just been hanging out with them, and they're like, hey, do you guys want to join? And then we joined, and then we didn't think anything would essentially happen with this band in the way that it has in such a quick time.
Right.
So
Yeah. How about your take, Vinny? I mean, you heard what Trent said, but do you have anything to offer?
I mean, he nailed it. I feel like it's scattered just because, we've all had different iterations of bands. Like Dom, Willie, and Nick, the two guitarists, have been playing together for over 10 years. Me and Dom were in a band for 8 years together. Dom and Carlos were in a band for a couple of years. So there's always been these combinations that never really worked out for whatever reason. Other people in the band, combinations just not getting along or not taking it seriously. So it was like kind of during the pandemic where me, Nick, the guitarist, and Dom, the drummer, were kind of just like looking for something to do. We did the Flight List kind of sampler. I had a child in 2018, my daughter, Ariella. So I was kind of taking a break from music, not too seriously. And then after the pandemic, kind of just gaining new grounds and kind of getting back on our feet, we decided to take it a little bit more seriously. And then, because Trent's always been in the mix as far as a friend. Carlos, the same thing. He's a friend. We just kind of wanted to add more to the project.
Right.
I've always been a fan of two vocalist bands. Every band that I've been in has kind of been like that. Just I love chemistry like that. So it seemed like why not, just get more people involved. And then, I think the writing process for Means to the End kind of means to the end. I don't think I'm saying it right. Means to an end.
No, I get it. Yeah.
During the writing process of that, it was almost like, wow, we really do have something here. And then I feel like the momentum kind of just built upon itself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love it. I mean, I can't stop talking about it, man. Everywhere I go, I'm writing something about you guys. I am very, very smitten with your sound. All that said, I've actually never heard three vocalists in a band. Granted, I mean, I'm sure it's not that way all the time. I mean, I haven't heard all of your material, or you haven't released all of the material you've probably worked on. But when I listen to that latest song, I mean, I'm hearing Trent's, melodic voice, and then what's the other guy's name who screams?
Carlos.
Carlos. Okay. So you and Carlos, trading those duties, and I've never really heard that, but what I love about it is the depth it gives, because a lot of times when people are doing harsh vocals, their voices are too thin, and they need to be sort of padded out in processing. And I love the fact that you guys working together have basically created this monster of noise, and it works so well as a juxtaposition against Trent's, gosh, I don't want to embarrass you, Trent, but your sweet voice. You have a very sweet melodic voice. It's a very very pretty voice, and
thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's a beautiful voice. You have a great tenor. And so the song really works because it captures you. It pulls you in, and then it kind of slams you with these aggressive vocal stylings. But the roller coaster ride that is your music works, I think, because from a melodic and aggressive point of view, it's constantly changing, but it's never going so extreme as to distract. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does.
No, I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying.
Gotcha.
I think that the most interesting part about it, though, is I don't feel like every song is going to be like that. And I think that's one thing I don't want to take priority in, is that we will have those hits, those singles, but then we also want those songs, like you said, that surprise you and kind of like throw you off. Yes. I think probably our priority is having that perfect balance to where you can kind of get it all. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Above the Waves definitely brought me into the circle, and now I'm looking forward to seeing, where you take me, right? I want to be on a journey with your band, and I know that you have the talent to provide it. So that's very exciting as a new fan. And man, I can't encourage people enough to check out everything, to follow you online, because they need to hear where you're going next. I really think you're going to change the way metalcore is heard. I mean, and I'm sorry if I'm labeling it incorrectly, or how you see the band differently, maybe. But to me, you at least Above the Waves holds a lot of traditional metalcore leanings, mm-hmm. and so that's kind of how I classify you. Unless you have a different way you'd like to tell me, like, Rob, shut up. It's actually X.
I'm not a snob by any means when it comes to genres and subgenres. Honestly, I will kind of just lump things together in just one genre instead of having like it be like this XYZ genre, right. Because I feel like there's like way too many subgenres, and I don't feel like remembering all that. So I feel like it's usually easier to just get a point across by saying like, oh, we're like metalcore with like ambient like undertones and like melodic stuff in there. Like most of the time, like that usually gets like the point across to people, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure people ask you this question, and I'm sorry for asking the question over, but what does the name mean to you? What does Float Omen mean to you?
That's totally on specifically me and probably Dom. When writing during COVID, that first EP, Flightless, Jump to the Sky, it was a very kind of dark and depressing moment, and I just had this like overwhelming vision of like a murder of crows just taking all these different kinds of forms, almost like an ink blot type deal. And instead of being like a floating omen, calling that, I really wanted something kind of like short and like kind of hit, and I didn't want it to be like one word. So in a sense, like words together, maybe it doesn't make sense, but there's a concept behind it. Float Omen, 2 words, I don't know, but to me, it always was about like the image that it portrayed rather than just the meaning of the words in succession.
I admit, when I saw it, I was like, okay, I don't necessarily know how that translates, but somehow, amazingly, it totally suits the material I've heard of yours so far, right? The couple of tracks that I've heard, I'm like, okay, that has a, whatever you want to call it, a Float Omen sound, and it totally makes sense with those words. Like, they're perfect descriptives of what you put out, Vinny. So congrats on figuring it out, man. I think it's great.
Good job, Vinny.
Thank you.
Okay, so Trent, this one's for you. So
Alrighty.
you bet. When it comes to music, you've obviously developed yourself over the years to be the musician you are today. But now that this Float Omen thing is really starting to catch fire, what do you think what does the band mean to you in the sense of what do you think it's trying to say, or what are you trying to say through the music that you're creating, the part that you're bringing to the band?
So, I feel like for the band, like we collectively and even individually, I believe that we're just trying to spread our own stories and our own feelings. Vinny is more of like a very poetic person, so the way he describes like his stories, like I don't know a lot of big words, so sometimes I just kind of have to like look things up. And like it's nothing bad, but like when I do know what Vinny is saying or like what he tells me the songs that he writes for, um it paints a bigger picture for me, and that's essentially I feel like is like the collective unit is instrumentation wise, storytelling. uh we just want to be able to tell our stories, whether it's a good experience in the past, a bad experience, anything of the sort.
Yeah, that's cool. So how about you, Vinny? What's your take on the meaning of all of this? Like why is music so important to you?
It's always just been a means to connect, and I mean, especially to feel understood. Like when I was listening to music, it was always kind of like I felt like I was on an island, just sometimes not having certain people around, and music was kind of like that comforting, making you feel understood and heard type deal.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I feel like we kind of also speak ourselves is through our music. I'm saying everybody, not everyone like writes lyrics. So like, Trent's an emotional person. He writes a ballad about it. I'm saying I feel like this is kind of like our release. And if we can connect to people and make other people feel things through it, then it's making the best use. I forget where I saw it. I think it was on the back of a Rollo Tomasi shirt, but it was like, don't waste your pain. And that's just the most blatant kind of a way I feel like, I feel like we've all been through a lot of stuff, and instead of like festering with it, this is kind of our way to make the best use of it.
Yeah. So
Not
for you
everything's
then,
pain, no, not everything is dark and depressing, but there is a lot of that. So
right? No, I get that. I mean, music is it's a lot of things, and it can be all of those things, or it can be one thing at a time. For me, I mean, this is leading to a question, but I would say that for me, music was always a form of expression, but as I've gotten older, it's also become a coping mechanism. And I have a feeling that you both, as songwriters, as creators who are active, right? I'm not active. I'm not doing any of this stuff anymore. But you guys are right in the middle of it. And I'm curious how much of it is coping, which you kind of, led a little bit towards Vinny, sort of springing out of you the feelings and the things that you have sort of trapped inside that you're using. So it seems like it's a combination of things, coping and form of expression. Am I on the right track?
oh yeah, a multitude of things, even like, the love for the scene and wanting to see it, come to fruition, like booking our own shows. Like we all love music in every, I feel like, form that it comes in, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
anything that we could do to add some sort of like positivity to it, whether it be like our own release or connecting the people, or throwing shows and having different genres on it, we just, I don't know, want everybody to feel welcomed and heard. And I think community the last year has been like a really big deal for us, just making sure we could put up other bands because we see the love that we're getting. So like we'll always be throwing new bands on our shows, and promoting things even if it's not really metal. um I feel like there's a true passion for music itself, and like you said, it comes out in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video of one of your live performances last December, and I think somebody in the audience had said, "Oh, what you guys actually maybe it was the first time you debuted Above the Waves, or one of the early performances of it, and somebody in the audience said, "Oh, this is really different," and you could hear it in the background, like, "Oh, wow, this isn't like what they've done before." Do you feel that song is that outside the box of what you normally do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I had so that song has sat in the chamber for a while. Like I started writing that back like beginning of 2022. So like
Wow.
we had it for a while. I didn't think that we would end up using it, to be completely honest. Like I knew we liked it, but it was definitely like I remember sending it to the guys probably like 7 in the morning at one point, and like it was usually like bit by bit because like I had wrote Slow Suspension first and then had gone to Above the Waves, and they're both very, I feel like, out of character but like in character as well. And
Right.
Above the Waves, like it was having a repeating chorus was, I don't think, on everyone's like priority of something to have because it was like very different for us. But I wanted to take a shot on it, and I'm glad that the guys wanted to take a shot on it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Can I ask this is gonna sound like a dumb guy, like not even thoughtful question, but what are you saying in the chorus? I was trying to find a lyric sheet for this, and I'm sure I just probably skipped right by it one of the times, but what are you saying in the chorus of Above the Waves?
So me and Carlos start at that part, forever
The heavy part.
discarded, to
Right.
sleep among sunken ships, and then Trent says, amidst the silence.
Amidst the silence.
Amidst the
That's
silence,
what
and
it
then
is.
the screams are a waltz of memories and regrets intertwine like spectral figures dancing in the abyss. Amidst the silence.
Yeah.
Pain to feel. Yeah.
Now I'm feel complete.
I think
Well, thank you also for bringing that to my attention because the lyrics should definitely be up somewhere.
they
Are
they're
they?
in they're in the description now. They weren't for a good chunk of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely point people towards that because it was definitely, look, I think if you've watched any of my shows or heard any of my shows, you would know that I do not normally care, honestly, about lyrics. It's never been something I've cared about. But with something like your music, your band, all the things you do, not just Above the Waves, of course, but everything, I actually want to know, for the first time maybe, I want to know what you're thinking, because the emotion of the harsh vocals, of the screams, makes me want to know why. Why are you, either aggressive, angry, upset, whatever it is? I want to know why you're saying these things. Where's the catharsis here? You know what I mean? So that's good. I'm glad that it's out there. Okay, this one's for you, Vinny. So, as a creative person, as a songwriter, I've found over the years that musicians, we tend to be mocked for being oddballs, misunderstood. And when I was a kid, I was bullied quite a bit, but I was always protected by older kids. So I feel like I had a fairly easy childhood in that regard. But were you one of those kids, Vinny, who was kind of picked on, or maybe still seen as a weirdo as an older person, as an adult? That there's something wrong with you?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah,
I mean, as an adult weirdo, like I don't know if I look at the world in that kind of way. I'm saying to judge. I feel like individuals are their own, and what's weird to me is not really weird to anybody else. So I don't know if I would use that terminology now, but as a kid, definitely. There were definitely aspects of my childhood that weren't great, and then fortunately, people picked up on it, and it became a joke in a sense. So feeling like a weirdo is me. Yeah, again, like it's not really the word, but definitely as far as like an outcast, or like something was different with my experience than other people were going through.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't necessarily to label that particularly that way. It's part of it's generational too. Like I use the term weirdo because that was the term used when I was a kid, right? But for me, it was always, I was misunderstood. Like nobody could get me, but I could also not, I couldn't necessarily get them either. That there was too much sort of emotional dissonance between my, my world and their world. And I'm wondering, like, do you think that people look at you and say, "Oh, he's a super interesting guy. But he also has a level of dissonance in his world that he speaks through his music, and I don't understand that." Does that make sense? Because that to me is more of the question. Like, do you feel like you're an outsider, or do you think that they think you're an outsider?
It makes sense to me, but I don't think I worry about it. I don't think that
Okay,
kind of thought comes to my.
great.
I hope people relate to it in that kind of sense, but I don't know if I'm worried about the negative connotations. I've also learned to just let things roll a lot. I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to a lot of things, so I don't think I don't think the negative thoughts of what people think, I don't think I let it really get to me.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. I mean, it makes sense too. It also goes to show you how like self-involved I am about my own world because I I struggle greatly with that sort of thing. I admit out loud that I want people to love me, and I feel it when they don't. I it really truly bothers me. It's my hang up, you know.
I
How
feel
about you,
like
Trent? Do you have a take on this?
Uh,
Oh,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
I definitely understand both perspectives. When I was younger, I definitely wasn't like the most favorable among people. I wasn't really bullied or anything. Um, I definitely didn't like click with everyone, but I also had my own group of friends that I connected with, and uh, at the end of the day, that was essentially all that really mattered, was that there was people who liked the things that I liked. Like we got along, either we grew up together, something of the sort. So um, I do want people to love me. I understand that because I just want to be friends with people and want to get along with everyone and want everyone to get along. But I've also grown to know that like if people don't like me or whatever, like that's just how it is, and I accept that.
Yeah, yeah. Vinny, what were you going to say? I'm sorry for interrupting you. The lag makes it difficult sometimes. But what were you? Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
um I don't know, so entwined with what Trent was saying, I don't remember
It's
the
okay.
point.
I'm sorry. Now I've outed you.
No, 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 it's all right. It's all right.
It's a sweet voice.
The sweet dulcet tones of Trent's beautiful tenor. It's lovely tenor. Okay, well then let's just jump on. Is it easier to become transparent as you've gotten older, or were you always able to sort of speak your mind? Because again, raising my hand up proudly as an embarrassing flag, you know, my own walk was, I was always so straightforward that I would alienate people. And I've found as I've gotten older that I've actually gotten more aggressive with that I just have stopped caring about what other people think, to the point that I am almost willfully offending them. So I'm curious, with what Vinny said a second ago, this idea of not really worrying about what other people think. Have you found that's gotten easier with time, or were you always like that, Vinny?
Well, I think that was the point that it was reminding me of. I think that once you go through a certain thing and experience something at a young age, it's easier to wash away all those kind of like things that you have no control over, like what people think if you're a weirdo. Like, not everybody's gonna, agree with you or think the same thing as you. So that's kind of like it just comes with, life in a sense. So I feel like probably wasn't always like that, but because of experiences, what I'm saying, I've grown to be more kind of fluid with those kinds of feelings and have made it easier to wash off those kinds of things when they do happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Okay, so so talking to you guys today, um, This is a lot of fun to me because I get to hear two people's sort of wildly different perspectives. But literally talking to you is good for me, right? Part of this show is the catharsis of me experiencing other people's worlds and taking the best parts of your life and trying to figure out how I can apply them to my own. Because as an older person, I find it embarrassing that I struggle greatly still with so many things. People look at me like, "What is wrong with you?" Like I almost didn't grow up. Like I never matured.
Mhm.
And I guess what I'm curious about from looking at you guys who are younger than me. I mean, you have so much life yet to live. Has it become easier to be transparent, to be straightforward? Do you find yourself embarrassing yourself at times? Do you care? Maybe answer that, Trent.
So I mean, I'm always thinking and overthinking like everything that I say most of the
Yeah.
time. So like that's something that's happened since I was a child. I don't think I'm ever gonna outgrow that. Um, Let me see.
It's like a
Uh,
personality type though, right? I mean, that's who you
yeah,
are.
yeah. I feel like I can be very straight up with some people, and then a lot of the time with most people, I can't. But I also don't enjoy conflict of any kind. So I just try to avoid that, and that's more of a detriment to me than to like uh what I could be doing that would benefit me and other people around me.
Right.
Um and that's just something that I've struggled with my whole life, and maybe at one point that'll be resolved, but I need to actually put in the work towards that for that to be something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a really good point too. I'll throw back at you, Vinny, the idea of conflict and avoidance. Something I've been dealing with within my own family. It seems like whenever I'm having struggles in my marriage or with the people that I'm very close to, it's usually, of course, through conflict, and it's about the battle of getting something out there. Meaning, I think it's easier. And I guess I'm probably addressing you too, Trent, but I think it's easier to just say the uncomfortable thing and deal with that versus keeping the uncomfortable thing bottled up. But I understand both sides. Do you, Vinny, do you just sort of blurt out what you're thinking and you deal with the consequences later, or do you fester? Do you let it boil up?
I think it's all situational. I think it's pretty great that you have both me and Trent, because I do think we're, again, almost like opposites. So we're kind of complementing what each other are saying in a sense.
Right.
Whereas I probably spent way too much time like hiding and lying and 20 years of avoiding
Mm.
problems. Whereas in now that I have a better relationship and have addressed and brought these things to the forefront, I feel like I kind of have almost I'm almost too transparent at times. It's very easy to just kind of like talk about what's going on, and I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. Maybe not everybody is like ready to have those kinds of conversations, but yeah, I feel like it's very easy for me to say the hard thing, just because I kind of know what it is on the other end to hide and to lie and to not say those things, and I'd never want to be that kind of person.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I think honesty and transparency are pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Trent?
I definitely agree. Honesty and transparency are very important. Just communicating that is my downfall, just because I am a people pleaser,
Sure.
and I hate it and I know it. It's just when you've been doing it for so long, it's one of those habits that's hard to break. And hopefully, at one point in time, I will be able to uh, address that and work on it and become a better version of myself. It's just I've faced a lot of struggles in my own way and in my own past that have made it a very big obstacle for me to
Yeah.
overcome.
Okay, but so look, I'm not a counselor, but I want to say this to you, and well, to both of you, of course. But look, the reality is for somebody like me who loves music in general, and then to have something like your band come into my world that actually profoundly affects me. I mean, I am not exaggerating, guys, when I say your band has profoundly, for whatever reason, I'm not actually entirely sure why it has caught fire so much with me, but it has. To a point that it's actually quite embarrassing. I talk about you guys all the time in social media posts, privately with my friends, through text messages. I'm sending them your songs, etc. I mean, I really, really love what it's done. But let me say this, and this is in response to what you just said, Trent. That might be something that you want to overcome, or it might be something that you dislike about yourself. But what Vinny said a second ago is so true, that you guys complement each other because you really are super, super dissimilar. Is that the right word? You are not alike really at all. But even watching your video, never having met you until today, actually talking to you straight, talking to Vinny on the phone. But to me, there's a feeling that precedes people. You kind of know who a person is when you meet them because there's a certain way they behave, or a certain way they walk up to you, or a certain way they address you, right? You just know certain people are timid, certain people are aggressive, certain people are hyper confident, certain people aren't. But there's nothing wrong with any of those aspects because that person is who that person is. And if you can just enjoy that person, it doesn't matter what they're made of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I say this because I sensed a little bit of like almost regret in your voice a second ago. And dude, I think you're fantastic the way you are. I love the way you present yourself online, on videos and music. I think it's lovely, and I wouldn't want you to take those things away and become another version of yourself, because I think the best parts of you are what feed the best parts of Vinny, and obviously the rest of the band and the people around you, and the sum of all those things is completely badass. You know?
I definitely very much appreciate it. I don't try to make it sound like it's a bad thing. I just know that
Sure.
there's that I tend to have like some bad habits, and it's not just that. It could be like, it could be minuscule, it could be major, but I there's things about me that I would like to be more refined and to have more confidence in that I haven't always had that confidence in. But those things can come with age. So I might not be at that point now, but at some point down the road, I could be a quote unquote better version of myself in different aspects of these things that I want to be better in.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
get that. I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't want to improve, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have a take on that, Vinny?
Not really a take. Again, that's just like individual experience. There's no, I don't think there's any like wrong or right way to grow through something. Just because I like feel differently, or I have, I guess, more control over transparency doesn't like mean anything in comparison to anybody else, because the things that I went through or did or whatever, are obviously like not somebody else's. So I feel like to try and compare, like you said, we're all kind of going through it, and however he deals or I deal is just fine. You know what I'm saying? As long as we're
Yeah.
doing it with growth in mind. And like you said, wherever we fall short, hopefully we have the good people around us, which I know we do,
Yeah.
kind of add wherever we can.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I have two more questions for you because I know you're kind of in a rush to get back to life, Vinny.
I know you put to 3. I mean, I'm good to that. So
Oh, okay. Well,
that was
I
the
still
time
wanna-
that you had in there. So whatever you need, whatever you want to do.
okay. No, that's good too. I'd love to talk about vices, and I almost never talk about them on this show, but I feel like you two can handle it. Are you down with going a little darker and a little deeper today?
Yeah, I can handle it.
Okay. And you don't have to answer it. I mean, you really do not have to, like, we're talking about our worst proclivities. I'm not asking you to go down the darkest rabbit hole.
You want
But
transparency right now?
yes, exactly. I mean, to me, that's the keyhole of the show, which is, talking to artists and having my listeners say, "Oh, that guy, I there's a reason I like that music because something about his personality or something that's maybe hidden inside of him draws me to him. It attracts me, right?" And the vice thing is kind of a strange question, but to me there's two types. There's the guilty pleasure, and then there's the actual vice that harms you, right? And I don't think they're the same thing. I mean, I could give you some examples, but like for me, okay, I'm gonna embarrass myself here a little, but like my guilty pleasure, this sounds like a dumb, like not even a vice, but it's a vice. Coca-Cola. I am an absolute Coca-Cola addict. It's embarrassing because it's killing me. I'm a diabetic. I drink Coca-Cola every day. It literally is killing me. But it's one of those things that I admit I'm an addict. I am addicted to it. I can't shut it off. I don't want to shut it off. I should, but I don't. And that's a big struggle for me. And then and obviously that kind of answers both sides, right? The guilty pleasure and the thing that harms me. But when I'm talking about harm, I'm talking about maybe mental or spiritual harm. So for me, that would be pornography. Okay, you guys don't have to go so deep. So, expose yourself. But pornography is something I've really, truly struggled with over the years, perhaps out of loneliness, some feeling of disconnect with humanity in general. I'm married. I love my wife, but I still struggle with that. So there you go. Does anybody want to try to hit this? A vice, a guilty pleasure, or one that harms you? Either of you? No?
I mean, as far
I
as
didn't know who wanted to go first.
Oh, sorry. I guess I should have named you because Vinny started going first. Let's have him go first.
I mean, as far as like a habitual vice, I mean, I've always smoked weed, and I know that there's no realm where smoke in your lungs is good for you. So for me to try and change it in any kind of way or justify it being it's legal, whatever, like I know it's not good. So that's one of those things in life where I try to have a good relationship, whether it be to take a break every now and then or limit the amount of things. But I know, like you said, at the end of the day, it's not good for me. It's something that I shouldn't be doing as a human being, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the social aspect of it. I enjoy how it makes me feel, and the quote unquote medical.
I lost Vinny.
What's up? Oh no.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a tough one. Because you're right. It's easy to qualify it. Well, it's legal, so it's okay now. Somehow it's found its way to being okay socially, so therefore it's not as big a vice or it's not as dangerous because you've reduced its impact, its negativity. But you're correct. It's anything you put in your lungs, it's going to come back to you eventually. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can over abuse kind of.
How about you, Trent? Yeah.
So for me, it would definitely be vapes. I went through something like I quit for a while, but I went through something like very traumatic like a couple of years ago, and I kind of like picked it back up. So we both know, that's not good for my health. But it helps me mentally in some cases. But like another weird one that I feel like we could throw in there for myself is self-isolation. Like I typically isolate when I am going through things.
Yeah.
And it can be positive in the sense that it gives me time to reflect on things. So there is like, it's like a double-edged sword. Like self-isolating can like harm me because I'm like trapped with my thoughts, but it can be positive because I'm trapped with my thoughts and I have to like process things. So that's like, I feel like that's another harmful way in
Yeah.
some capacity.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that out loud, because I think human nature is to do our vices in private. You know, as I mentioned before, I'm talking about pornography or whatever, but I have a very close friend who I saw maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I was driving, and I ended up pulling over to the side of the road and talking to him for about a half an hour. And he said to me, he goes, "Rob," he goes, "Why are you so angry?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "There's something about the way you're expressing yourself today that is so much angrier than I've ever heard from you. Why do you think that is?" And I said, I don't know. Well, anyway, long story short is he invites me to a 12-step program. He said, because, and I'm not saying it's wrong for me or right for me. I'm saying I went just to kind of experience it, because one of the things he had told me was anger comes from a place that you're suppressing. It always comes from hiding something, keeping something in the dark, because we're embarrassed about it, right? Whether it's pornography or any form of addiction, and that is going to always result in a defense mechanism in overdrive. So I don't get that from you guys today, but I guess what I would say in general, the reason I'm bringing it up is for anybody listening, if you're struggling with anger, or you have an addiction issue that you're not truthful about to yourself, and you're hiding from others, and that is always going to come out in some form of anger, whether it's spiritual, mental, or physical. So, for what it's worth.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. Hey, I love this next question. I don't get to ask it very often either, but peace, and dreaming. What do you dream about for your future? And it can be anything. This is intentionally open-ended, because I don't want to steer you in a direction and say it's about the band or it's about your family or whatever, but I would love to hear what you dream about. What brings you peace? So let's start with Trent on this one.
Oh man.
You're welcome.
I mean, I feel like the thing that I just dream about or want to accomplish is just security in like any and every form that I can for my future. That's not even so much as like a band or anything. It's just, like having a place to go home to, like being with the person I love, like just having any form of security in my life and comfortability. And that's basically it. That's really all that I want most in life.
But it's so hard to achieve, like, I mean, how do you visualize how you can achieve that, to not just say like you're looking for a feeling, but I mean an actual set of, like, is there a like, can you visualize what that means? Not just a feeling or not just a confidence, but a location or an event.
To be honest, no. I've never really thought about it as deep as having like something on the physical spectrum. It's more so just been the feeling of this. I mean, I could live in 100 different houses, but like what is going to make me feel at home? I'm also a homebody, so to be honest, I could probably be very easy to please in that regard, like finding a place that is my home where I feel secure and comfortable at. So that could be kind of loaded for myself, but I've never really thought in the physical spectrum of like, this is where I'll feel secure, this is where I'll feel comfortable with these people, so on and so forth.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your honesty with that, your openness, and also the idea of not necessarily understanding how you're going to get there, but that's a desire, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's not wrong to not know things, but I feel like to have a goal in mind or having your head go in the direction that you want it to, that's the important first step.
Right, right. How about you, Vinny?
I'm kind of all over the place, like with dreams and stuff, because I can think about like from my own like perspective and like what I want works for me. But I'm also like, I think it's really hard for me to like think about my personal experience and not think about like the world in general right now. And there's a lot of like really scary things that happen. So, peace for me right now doesn't really mean like peace in general. So,
Right. I get that.
um, like just without even like getting specific about something, but I remember Christmas time, waking up with like war on the TV and family members being upset about it, and it's almost just like, yes, like sure, right here is kind of content and peaceful and great, but there's other things that you just can't see that affect other people in other kind of ways. So in a grander scheme, I'm not really sure personally. Like my daughter is healthy, therefore everything else kind of just comes and goes, and I can roll with it. I would like to be self-sufficient with the band, doing what I love, because right now I'm just the number pusher who just works
Right.
the typical office job, kind of soul sucking. So I feel like my dream would be doing something a little more purposeful, making a living for myself, and I guess just a more conditioned mentality to be able to roll with the things, like I said, out of my control that are just going to happen in the world, no matter what, no matter how you feel.
Right. Right. No, I get that. I get that. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's an open-ended question and it's loaded because there really are no answers. There's just sort of hopes, right? Like I think of it from a spiritual aspect, and this isn't a religious question, but it is a spiritual thing. It's like, how do you find satisfaction in a world that seems to dish out, 99% of the time dissatisfying things? Whether it's people or, like you mentioned a second ago, working at a job that just demoralizes or takes from you. How do you find satisfaction in the depth of your soul? And I grew up in the church, so I mean I do have a different take, but I'm also not religious in the sense of like the guy who or tries at least not to be the guy who's judgmental and says, well, if you don't do this or you don't believe this way, then you're wrong. You know what I mean? But for me, the sort of output I have is that I'm actually I don't want to say I'm a negative person, but I'm very challenged by life. I find everything gets on my nerves. I'm easily angered. I'm easily frustrated, and I've never really lived or done the things I've wanted to do, and I often wonder if that will ever happen for me. So I'm curious, I guess, with you guys, do you feel like you're on a path to accomplish what you, and this goes back to the dream thing, but do you feel like you're actually on a path to get what you want out of life? Or do you feel like you're just dealing and this is the way it is and you found a way to be good with that? Maybe start with you this time, Vinny?
I think that's a very divided condition, and I think I go between both. I find myself being incredibly cynical and looking at things and being like, it's all hopeless, it's all for shit. Like, what's the point of working with this when shit and the world can just end tomorrow? But then I
Right.
also, again, like, I think having a child also brings a lot of positivity and empathy and innocence like into my life. So obviously I always want to hope for the better because I want the best for her and the people around me, whether it be family or whatever. I find myself, yeah, bouncing between those two a lot, like wanting to try harder than anybody else, and then also just giving myself every excuse to just kind of, give up and be like, why bother?
Yeah. 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 How about you, Trent?
Uh, I feel like I also bounce between, but I feel like it's not so much like cynicism. It's more like I can be that kind of way. I'm trying to think because Vinny gave such a good answer. I'm like, damn, I feel lost now.
You steal it.
Um, I can definitely be cynical because I feel like there is just a lot of uh upset, angry people in the world. I can be one of them. I think we all have the capacity to be that person. But I also always try to see like the light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
and I feel like even though the world can and is such a scary place and there's so much bad stuff going on left and right, um, I'm always just very hopeful that there can be good and again light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm always torn between the two. I feel like I don't always think about it so much. I do think about it a lot, but I feel like I'm also like my head's in like a million different places too. So I'm just like, if I'm not here, I'm there. If I'm not there, I'm here, and so on
Sure.
and so forth.
Sure. No, I think that's yeah, I mean, both of your answers are right on the money, and honestly, to be fair, kind of what I expected from each of you based on what I've learned about you so far. It is interesting to not necessarily be in the moment. I think the hardest part about life, at least for every artist I've ever met, and I'm not saying this is YouTube, but I will say that I do feel leanings that every artist I've ever met struggles with being present for now. You know, we talk about it, we dream about it, we say, oh, I just love the world and I love its creative power and I just love being in the middle of it. But I don't know if we're actually very good at that. I think the nature of an artist is to be a dreamer and always be forward thinking about someday I'll achieve X or someday I'll feel a certain way. And there's a lot of hope built up behind it. Do you kind of agree with that take, or do you think it's possible to be satisfied with now, especially being a younger person? Because I mean, dude, I'm in my late 50s and I don't even feel remotely confident I'm ever going to achieve anything that matters, and I'm certainly highly dissatisfied. I mean highly dissatisfied. So
I so I feel like being hopeful is a good thing. I also feel like the issue with today, uh, and something I struggle with from time to time is I feel like I'm constantly comparing what I am doing to what other people are doing and
yeah,
feeling like I need to do something drastic for my life to matter. But that's not the case. And everyone moves at their own pace. And it's okay to be where I'm at and
yes,
doing what I'm doing now. And that drastic can be different on so many scales. Like, I don't need to change the world, but I can change someone's world and change my world. And that can be my purpose for life. Mine doesn't have, I don't have to be this all powerful person. I can
yeah,
do things on such a small scale that make such a big difference in my little tight knit circle or something of that sort. And I feel
yeah.
like a lot of people don't grasp that or uh, really take that into account.
Yeah, yeah. Before you answer, Vinny, I want to say something back to Trent. Yeah, I mean, you talked about purpose, and I say this every show, but I'll say it one more time for you guys, is the very reason you're here today is because this dude, me, said, wow, I really like that band and I really want to talk to those guys. I don't know if I can necessarily provide any more PR or anything that is valuable to you in any way. But it is my hope that this conversation spurs, a positive result for a listener, a viewer, for you, for me. And to me, the purpose is there. That's the purpose.
Mhm.
The fact that you exist, that both of you exist, that both of you are here today, feeds amazing things into my life and into each other. And
Absolutely.
and that's enough, That's, I mean, to me, that's like the whole freaking thing.
No, absolutely.
You
I
know?
agree. I
Yeah, I
feel like
don't.
we need to stop. Oh, sorry, Vinny. I'll let you talk.
Oh no, just in the same sense, like I don't think either of us are here. I mean, I'm sure I could speak for both of us. None of us are here for like a PR. setting. You know what I'm saying? Like I watched your last interview. Obviously, I think that you have a lot to promote as far as what your podcast is about. So it's just as much as like an intrigue as it is like obviously like you got to do what you need to do for business aspects of it. But no,
Sure.
it's really just about, like I said, the connection.
Yeah. 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 I just think it's life is hard enough to to just be here and to be present and available right now, to be healthy enough to be in this moment, to not be clouded by drugs or alcohol, or just to be aware and available to each other. And again, a beautiful thing. I mean, I wouldn't want anything else. The best parts of my day are these moments where I get to talk to amazing guys like you. And it is my genuine hope that that translates into lifelong friendships. I know it may not, and I have to be good with that. But when I meet guys like you who I genuinely admire, as creatives and as people, well, then I win, man. I've now I know two guys better than I did an hour ago, and I love what you do. So why wouldn't I want to be around that? Why wouldn't I want to be inspired by that? I think that's super cool.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. The last dumb question of the day, and then we'll do a little promo at the end. Fight Club. It's your first day at Fight Club. You got to fight. Who are you picking and why? Vinny, you get to go first. Vinny
Any
gets to go
random
first.
person?
It could be a famous person. It could be your mom. It could be anybody. But you got to fight, and you got to tell me why.
I don't like fighting.
I understand, but you got to fight. You're here.
It'd have to be
You gotta-
somebody like really evil or something. I don't know. It'd have to be like a really bad person for me to want to get physical. I don't know. That's a hard. I don't know. Tiger King. First person that came to mind.
Tiger King.
That's great.
I
Tiger
don't know why.
King.
It's the first thing I thought about.
That's pretty weird, man, but I love it. I can't even stop laughing about that. Okay, Trent, you?
All right. So before you said it was anybody, I was thinking of who in the band could I fight.
There you go.
Probably me.
Now we're talking.
Vinny, no, you and Willie are way too in shape. Carlos would just eat
Have to get it.
anything I throw at him. I would say Nick. Honestly, just fight
Nick's
Nick.
getting it.
Yeah, just our guitarist Nick. For no reason. Just see what happens.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love your takes are so wildly disparate, man. Freaking Tiger King and Nick. Yes, bravo. Bravo. Okay, so last thing. This is business time for you guys. Share what's going on. I don't know which one wants to take the reins here, but I'd love to hear where Float Omen is going, the direction. Tell us the things we need to know about the band so listeners can go eat it up and love it as much as I do. You want to run with that, Vinny?
Yeah, sure. So we have a EP coming out called The Degradation of Life. It's out September 6th, along with another new song / music video. We have a headlining show coming up September 13th at Salty's Bar in Belmar, New Jersey, for anybody in the tri-state area. Bunch of bundles for merch that are also associated with the album. So if you want the album, want to get something else associated with it, there's a bunch of cool little promotional things that we're doing with that. We are also playing with Between the Buried and Me in Asbury Park, New Jersey on September 29th.
Sunday.
And then along with the headliner, we will also be on a small run with our friends Wilt Wither, Monochromatic Black, and For Fear Itself. from the 12th to the 22nd on the East Coast, like mid East Coast, not all the East Coast.
Yeah. Right on.
I think that's all I got to
man.
remember. If Trent wants to fill in anything else.
I think that's about it. Honestly, we're already working on new material. You probably won't hear it for quite some time, and that's okay.
Oh wait, no, that's not true. There's a special thingy in the set.
Yeah, there is one song in the set that I wrote for us, and Vinny and Carlos made it sound monstrous, and we're playing that. But I'm not going to say the name. But other than that, we're working on new material constantly, and expect more from us in the future.
Yeah. Well, man, I have loved having you guys here today. I really love what you do. I know I keep saying it, repeating it. I'm like, what's his name? Seth MacFarlane. I repeat the living shit out of it. I love what Float Omen is, and I'm sure I can't wait to hear what Float Omen does. You know what I mean? What you continue to do. Mm-hmm. But you're two super great guys. You've been very kind to me. You put up with my nonsense today, my pointless conversations about Madonna and the Wizard of Oz.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you bring. But
sincerely, it doesn't go unnoticed on us. We're grateful for any love and attention that we get. You know, there's no ego. We've all been doing music for 10 plus years. So to be receiving, the amount of love that we've gotten just does not go unnoticed to us. So we're just as grateful.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. Well, we'll see you sometime soon, and hopefully I can either come out there one of these days to see a Float Omen show, or maybe we'll finally get you on tour on the West Coast. I know it takes time.
If we can get there next year, that would be a huge goal for us. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I'll do what I can to help you guys and make connections for you. And I'm just proud of you and happy to meet you and happy to know you and happy to listen to you. So congrats, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. We're happy to be a part of this.
Right on.
You've been listening to Sentimental Illness with Rob Leland. Our theme song, Machine, has been graciously provided by Harris Heller. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast media. You can directly support the show on Patreon as well, where you can find us at patreon.com/This is Sentimental Illness. It also helps us a lot if you rate the show online. So jump out there and give us 5 stars. And lastly, always remember, your mind will overthink everything, but your heart can never love enough. See you soon.